Okie dokie, here we are, Roundtable Rams, episode one. I know we are getting started way late in the season, but that's okay. This is life. That's what happens. I want to start this episode off by just revealing some breaking news that just broke this morning on the Rams. Los Angeles Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford and wide receiver Puka Nacua have been named all pros to the surprise of absolutely nobody.
Yeah, very expected. Not
Yeah,
not
Matthew
nothing breaking
Stafford.
there.
Yeah, it's not breaking news. We all expected this to happen, but Matthew Stafford is having an incredible season, led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Puka Nacua, I believe, was second in yardage, and
Yeah.
that guy has been on a tear for being a third-year player. He just continues to showcase why he's one of the most elite wide receivers in the entire game. It's insane watching him play week after week. He just seems to just pull out these insane catches like nobody's
Mm.
business. Like he's very reminiscent to me of Randy Moss, but like a little bit more of a tough receiver in the sense of like he's not the one that's going to jump up and get contested balls every single time, but it's ridiculous the things that he can do.
I'm still
Um,
caught up on that one finger, one hand
right,
catch a few weeks ago. I'm still thinking
right.
about that one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like every time I watch him week after week and cover him, I'm like, just it's just insane how this guy catches anything the way he catches it. Like,
Yeah.
I guess I think it was in the Cardinals. He had a toe touch grab that they ruled that was not a catch, but in my opinion, it was. We're not going to
Mm.
go into the semantics of it, but it was just insane because Stafford kind of threw it way outside to the right, and he still managed to catch it with the toe drag swag, as they call it, but it was called back because he did jumble it, like kind of at the end. Again, I don't want to get into semantics of
Plenty of questionable
right,
decisions
exactly.
made this year by the officiator.
Right, right. I mean, it seems like every single week there's always like that was a catch, that wasn't a catch, was it a catch?
Yeah.
We can record a full 3 hour episode on that. But moving right along, the Rams have a very, very, very important matchup today. They are
Hmm.
facing the Carolina Panthers in the wild card round of the playoffs.
Yeah, heading over to Carolina. It must be so demoralizing as like a 12-win team having to go over to like an 8-win team
I
playing in their
mean,
stadium.
that's just the way that this tight NFC
I
race has been. Even
know.
last season, the NFC West was just ridiculously good, and
Yeah.
same thing here. Well, the NFC North as well. Three teams, I think, believe last season got in to the playoffs:
Mm.
the Vikings, the Lions, and
Yeah.
who am I?
Packers.
Packers. Thank you. I was like, who
Yeah.
am I missing? Um, yeah, but now I mean the NFC West, you got the Seattle Seahawks, you got the Rams, and oh my God, my mind is just drawing a blank right now. But you know what I'm talking about. They're all in the playoffs. It's going to be wild. That's how tight it was. A 12-win team dropped all the way down to the fifth seed in the NFC. Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks are number one seed. They're not playing this week, but there is going to be a lot of drama tonight as well that's going to shape the NFC. The Packers and Bears are playing, which is going to be insane as well. But that's another.
Imagine saying that like this time last year.
I mean, really though, yeah, seriously. Ben Johnson has done wonderful things with the Bears this season. Caleb Williams is playing
Mhm.
out of his mind. Anyway, that's for whoever's got the Packers and Bears podcast to
Yeah.
discuss. Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. The Panthers are coming in at 8-9. They won the division at 8-9. I believe last season it was 8-9 too for the NFC South. So whatever, I don't like to see it as, oh, this 8-9 team is coming into the playoffs and it's just going to be a freaking, easy win for any
Not
team,
at all.
whoever.
Any given Sunday, especially in the
Exactly.
playoffs. That's what the playoffs are for. Underdog
Exactly.
upsets.
I mean, look at Eli Manning and the New York Giants. They were 9-7, I believe it was, when they went into the playoffs and they beat everybody, including Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. So, you
Ravens
know,
were 10-6, went through Brady, went through Manning, got to the Super Bowl and won. So
they
it happens. It's very, very possible. The Rams coming in excellent team, but Panthers, love a little underdog upset. So I'm not counting them out.
No, definitely, and as nobody should. I mean, the Rams are a -10 favorite right now, which I think again
Yeah.
I understand why, but at the same time, like you have to understand that the Carolina Panthers they're kind of one of those unpredictable teams where like they'll just rifle off a huge win against an opponent that like they blanked the Falcons week 3 30-0. You know what I
They've
mean?
already
Like,
beat the Rams this season, so
right,
you know,
right.
Rams are
Yeah.
coming in with a chip on their shoulder. They're ready to prove.
And yeah, I mean they beat the Buccaneers, you know, they beat the Packers, you know,
Yeah,
they beat some
they
playoff
have.
teams already, so they're
And
not
then they got beat by the Saints.
right, right, right. I mean, you know.
Divisional
uh
rivals, happens.
exactly, exactly. But you know, it's gonna be an interesting matchup. I think the biggest thing for the Rams is containing not only Rico Dowdle, but then you gotta stop Bryce Young. He can get chunk yardage on the ground. You know, he's very unpredictable and dangerous in his own right. You got McMillan, you got Leggett. They got some really good players on their team.
Got some great corners.
Yes, yes. They just got back Robert Hunt. Shout out Robert Hunt, former Miami Dolphin offensive lineman. He's been on IR for quite a while, but he is finally back. So
Hmm.
that's going to be a super, really good boost for their offensive line.
Yeah,
Um,
it gives Young a little bit more time to see what's going on.
Definitely. But I mean, yeah, you got JC Horn, who's arguably the best cornerback in the league. Um, Arguably the best cornerback in the league. But
He's
this is
having a
a
great season.
yeah, definitely. This is a very plucky team, and it's not someone that the Rams need to go in there thinking that they're going to beat. And that's never the case. I don't feel like they've ever thought like that, and they've
No.
ever presented it that way. Transitioning right into Devontae Adams, Devontae Adams was speaking to the media, and he was talking exactly like that.
Hmm.
He's been in four NFC Championship games as a member of the Packers. He's got plenty of playoff experience, so he knows exactly where this team needs to be in the playoffs. And not that none of these Rams players don't have playoff experience, they just don't have as much deep playoff experience as Adams does.
Yeah.
And he spoke about that. He just said, don't expect me to be high-fiving everybody and cheering when we win, which I think is very smart and a very
Hmm.
good way to kind of approach this. Is like, even if you happen to beat the Panthers, you're going to be facing even a stiffer challenge the next round. So don't
Yeah.
go celebrating and thinking that you won the Super Bowl already. There's more work to be done.
Uh-huh. And it's worth noting that last time Horn and Jackson, I think, held Adams and Nakua to 10 receptions, like 130 yards and only two touchdowns. So, they know what they're coming up against. They've seen them already. This, and I don't know, sometimes that can give you an edge in the playoffs. Like you already kind of know what the team's about. So you know how to adjust maybe. And it was only a one score loss, I think, last time.
Mm.
So between the two, I don't know. I'm excited to see them go head to head again.
Yeah, definitely. And you have to look at the injury report for the Rams as well heading into this game. Like they lost Kevin Dotson again. He's still dealing with an ankle injury, and that's a huge, huge loss on that offensive line. The
Yeah.
offensive line, as we've seen, when they're not because I think it was Alaric Jackson and Kevin Dotson were out, and Stafford was on the run like mostly every single play. So
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Jackson's back, but Dotson is now out. So that's the biggest thing that the Rams are going to have to account for is making sure that Matthew Stafford, kind of stays upright.
Hmm.
He's good. I mean, he can throw on the run, but that's not what you want from Stafford, who plants his feet and guns the ball downfield.
Yeah, I think the only thing is the Panthers' pass rush is obviously like not the strength on the defense, but given enough time, they can definitely get something done. So it is a loss, like it's a loss anyway.
Yeah, definitely. That's hitting the nail on the head right there. Is like, yeah, like any team, regardless of like if their pass rush is not the best or whatever in the league, you give them enough time. Especially because you got JC Horn and covering Puka or covering Devontae Adams, whoever he's going to be covering. If they're
Hmm.
not open and Stafford can't get the ball to whoever, they can get after him. But the
Hmm.
good thing is, so there is a slight chance that Terrence Ferguson is going to be ruled out of this game as well for the Rams, which is kind of a big loss because he's been coming alive in more recent weeks and been really good. But the Rams did get Tyler Higbee back, and Higbee went off for 91 yards and a touchdown against the Cardinals.
Hmm.
Again, understand that it's the Cardinals, but Higbee finally coming back is huge. Colby Parkinson is another good over the middle weapon for Matthew Stafford. Like the good news for the Rams is even if the downfield shots are not there for Stafford, like the over the middle yak yards is what he's probably going to be focusing in on with those big body tight ends.
Yeah. Though I have to say, controversially, I think that this game's going to be won on the ground. I think, I think Williams is the second, has the second most points after James Cook in rushing. I don't know. With Horn and Jackson kind of in the back, maybe they might take the approach of going more on the run this time.
No, that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, like so Blake Corum and Kyron Williams together have become like arguably
Power duo.
not even arguably, they are the best running back tandem in the league, but in
Hmm.
recent weeks they've been a little bit less dynamic. Both of them have been shaking off injuries. Corum, I believe, got hurt in the Cardinals game. It was an
Mm,
ankle injury, and Williams has been banged up. I mean, everybody's pretty much banged up. It's the end of the season, you're going into the playoffs, but they're not on the injury report right now in terms of like they're not in danger of missing the game. I want to say that they did come in questionable last week, but I don't know about this week. Let me double check that with the internet powers that
yeah.
we all have. Um, yeah, they're both off. They're both off the injury
Yeah,
report.
all good.
They were in the injury report last week. Corum was as Corum was more of a concern than Williams was, but regardless, like you're right. That's a good point in that if it's going to be one on the ground, that the Rams have the benefit of having both of them.
Yeah.
Obviously the Panthers are not one without their own star. Rico Dowdle has been fantastic in 2025.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I don't know. I just think there's going to be a lot of focus, obviously, on Nakua and Adams, but I think it's, worth noting just how good that running defense and running duo is.
No, definitely, definitely. Another player out too for the Rams is Jordan Whittington. Whittington,
Yeah.
not necessarily, he's a more of a rotational wide receiver, but this gives more opportunities to Mumfield and Tutu Atwell as well as Xavier Smith because, like you're just saying, if Puka and Devontae Adams are covered up, which we expect to be the case, you open the field a little bit more to Atwell or Mumfield or Xavier Smith. Especially
Mhm.
with Whittington out, those guys are going to get a lot more looks. They're going to get a lot more um, catch chances, as well as Parkinson and Tyler Higbee, with Terrence Ferguson potentially missing the game, but we'll know when the inactives list drops, like an hour
Yeah.
or so before the game.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting healthy at the right time. If this is the exact right time you want all your stars coming back, and it seems like they're doing it. I don't think that the Panthers have anything like major. I think they're kind of tracing the bottom of most like stat lines for like points per game and and all of these things. But I don't know. I do think that the Rams do have a little challenge on their hands with the Panthers, despite what the statistics may say. But I don't know. I think personally, Mike, what watching this game, what I'm going to watch is the run game and see how that goes for them. I think that that's going to be really important in winning the game. I don't think I sometimes kind of think about weather constraints and things. I think at the beginning of the game it's going to be like a little bit rainy. Sometimes you want to keep the ball on the ground at that point, but I don't know. I don't think that the weather's really going to pay much compared to like other teams when you go over to Buffalo and things like that, and then you've really got to think about the weather. But I don't think it's going to be much of an issue here.
Yeah, definitely. But I think another interesting thing too, not interesting, but the kind of sort of a little bit of a downfall rather for the Rams is they typically start a little bit slow,
Yep.
especially in that first quarter. In the first quarter, it just seems like the Cardinals game, it was a field goal each, and they didn't get their first touchdown until 10 minutes left of the second quarter. So I think you're right. Also, too, with that is if it's raining and it's hard to throw the ball already, and you're keeping it on the ground, everyone's gonna, stack the box and try to stop. They got to stop Dowdle. The Rams have to stop Dowdle. The Panthers have to stop Corum and Kyron Williams. So I think we're gonna see a more uncharacteristic, slower scoring game in the first half. But then, as we've seen, the Rams start to get going in that third and fourth quarter, and then they just run away with the game. So we'll see if they
Yeah.
can do that.
Which is ironic because that's kind of the different story to the time these two teams last met. I think they didn't score in the third quarter at all. I think most of their points came in the second quarter. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of comes out of that. I think maybe it's like just starting the game off strong, getting those like run down big chunk yards, maybe taking time off the clock, not really giving the Panthers much time to come in and do stuff. I think that that would be the best way to approach this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even the Falcons game, the Rams didn't get any points on the board until the third. quarter, they got a field goal, and then they were playing catch up the entire time. And obviously, we saw what happened. They lost that game. And that's the thing is like even a lesser opponent, a lowlier opponent, if you will, like the Panthers, you're coming into the NFC playoff race with the worst record. They got in by the skin of their teeth, but they're still a challenge no matter what. Any team that comes into the playoffs is just a different level of competition. Everybody
Yeah.
knows that, and so you got to make sure that you're playing your A game regardless of who it is. You can't just count them out and expect you're going to steamroll whatever opponent, especially with the Rams' struggles in the first and second quarter of the last two games. You can't do that. Not in the playoffs. You have to start off
No.
strong. Even if it's getting a field goal, even if you're getting downfield and you're still getting points on the board, that matters in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and turnovers, got to keep the ball under lock and make sure that you're not giving up mistakes. I think Stafford has 8 interceptions, Young's got 11. I don't really know how much turnovers are going to be in this game. I mean, in the playoffs, there's always just those crazy turnovers that happen at the most like inconvenient times that completely changes the momentum
Mhm.
of the game. And I will say, the Panthers are coming in with a lot to prove because people are saying to them, you're coming in completely unworthy of this opportunity. So they're going to
Right.
want to show up. And I think people often underestimate how much emotion plays into this. One thing goes wrong, you're suddenly scrambling, trying to catch up. And I think, the Rams really just have to keep hold of the ball, keep the game under their control, keep on top of it, keep scoring points, keep getting downfield. And that should be enough for them. But, emotions at this time of year are high because it really is, you know, win or go home. And that, that is pressure on you. It's not like any other time in the season where you can kind of come back the next week and hope for a win and that will get you to the next point. I don't know. People don't talk about emotion enough, but it really does play into it.
No, no, definitely. That's a very good point. Again, with the fact that those game-changing plays, those game-altering plays, as they call them, and
Yeah.
that's pure emotion. Something wrong, something catastrophic goes wrong in that game, and then all of a sudden, like you see that other team just kind of running away with the momentum until
Yeah.
another momentum-altering play happens. And I think for the Rams, they have those kinds of players on defense with Kobe Turner and Byron Young who are insanely good together. They're those kind of game wrecking players. Like maybe if strip sack, they've been getting strip sacks like crazy too. Like a strip sack fumble on Bryce Young or Rico Dowdle, whoever. That's the kind of play that they're gonna need if they're struggling either in the first half or whenever. If they're not putting things together, you have to get those turnovers going. You have to get that ball even if it's a field goal, you get some points off of turnovers, and then things can change very quickly.
Yeah, and this game is also kind of a story of old and the new, right? Because I think Panther, like Bryce Young was number one pick 2023, Stafford was number one pick in 2009. So this is two like, two massive storylines going up against each other. And it's like, is Stafford going to keep on top? Is he going to keep, or is Young kind of coming in to kind of show like there's a new generation in town? I don't know. Stafford's really been on top of his game all year, so I think he's going to be just fine. But I think sometimes older teams benefit from that history, and sometimes when things go wrong, they can kind of pick it up. But when you're young and emotional and you kind of want it, like as a Ravens fan, I've witnessed it plenty of times. Zay fumbling the ball on the on the yard line and against the Chiefs, and it really does impact the game when those small things go wrong. And I think older teams with that Stafford at the head, who's kind of been there 17 years, has kind of seen it, is more likely to be able to recover from those things than Bryce Young, who's probably is coming into his first playoff game and is really wanting to show what he can do.
No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and you're right. I feel like Bryce Young does symbolize that kind of changing of the guard. Like, he got benched a season ago,
Yeah.
which then all of a sudden just it gave him the motivation that he needed to turn things around. The back half of that season, 2024, he was outstanding, and he comes into this year and he's doing really well as well. Obviously,
Mhm.
the Panthers are up and down. They've had some rough skidding there, but they're a team on the rise for sure. They're full of young, dynamic players like McMillan, like we just brought up. Rico Dotto, obviously the older player there, but they have a lot of young talent there that they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be a competitive NFC team probably from here on out.
Yeah.
Obviously they barely got into the playoffs now, but that doesn't mean that that's going to stop for them. I think they've I feel like they're kind of like the Jaguars in the sense of like they're starting to put
Hmm.
the pieces together,
Yeah.
and I think that switch is gonna happen. Obviously, not this season with their 8-9 record, but I think next season we're gonna see a very, very well put together Panthers team.
NFC South is going to be the division to watch next year, I think. With the changing at head coach in the Falcons and things like that, there's going to be a lot going on over there. It was already competitive this year. I think that that's why the teams did kind
Hmm.
of all come out at like 8 wins per this season because they were all playing against each other. And
Yeah,
like we said, the Saints come in and they cause an upset for the Panthers, and the Saints, were the team that everyone's kind of like laughing at, mocking.
you're right.
But I think next year, there's going to be a lot of scrapping around there down in the South.
No, definitely. And another bit of big breaking news: the Falcons just hired Matt Ryan as their president of football operations. So he's going to be responsible for
Okay.
bringing in the new head coach and the new general manager. Which I love. I love when legacy players get hired within the
Me
teams.
too.
Like when
Yeah.
Dan Marino was hired by the Dolphins, I was like, let's go. I just love. I just feel. I feel like when you get those kind of like if Aaron Donald came back as any kind of coach and or whatever front office, whatever for the Rams, that would be huge. Just
Yeah.
because they know that organization so well. Being a player has its benefits, all that good stuff. But anyway, the Panthers. I still feel are a dangerous team regardless. And you're right. The Buccaneers there were insanely good for a minute. The Falcons looked like they were dangerous. Their defense was crazy. And you're right. They were all playing one another. So that could be it. And that's exactly why the Rams cannot just discount this team as they're the forgotten NFC playoff like guys. We don't need to worry about them, which is not true.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Rams will be just fine with like obviously all the talent that they have on the team, but I don't think this is going to be the gimme game that everyone kind of sees it being.
No, and honestly, I think it shouldn't be in the sense of like I think you need to face some adversity so that way you carry that on into the next matchup, the momentum. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
that's what I really appreciated about Sean McVay playing all the starters in the final week. Obviously, they were already knocked out of the possibility of getting the top seed in the NFC. So it may or may not been because of seeding,
Hmm.
whatever. But the way that they played against the Falcons, he was like, "No, we're playing. We have to
Hmm.
play a better brand of football." And I think that's important because I'm of the mind where some teams rest their starters, others don't heading into the
Yeah.
playoffs. I feel it's better not to rest starters
Me too.
simply
I agree. I
because
agree.
you don't want to stop that momentum of winning
Mhm.
or whatever. You want to carry that in. And so sometimes when teams come back from a bye week, they're good, but a lot
Mhm.
of times they come back and they're rusty because they had a week off. But I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. And I think, I think that's how he felt about it. But
I feel the same, and obviously just because I'm a Ravens fan, but seeing that we had it with we were the number one seed a couple of years ago, and I think that it impacted us greatly having that kind of week. It's important to keep those like muscles moving, especially this time of year, keep them moving, keep the momentum up. I think that it definitely is going to play a factor in the Rams game that both the Panthers and the Rams have not had that kind of break between them. They've both been fighting until the end, and so I think that there's no like rest mode in their mind
Mhm.
that going into this game that's going to play an impact on.
No, definitely. And one of the benefits, actually, you mentioned it briefly earlier. The Rams are getting healthy at the right time. So one of the
Hmm.
benefits of getting healthy right now, especially, they're getting Quentin Lake back. Quentin Lake, team captain, incredible safety. He just was awarded a 4-year, like $40 million deal before his return. He's healthy finally. He suffered an elbow injury, I believe, in week 11 it was, and
Hmm.
he's coming back, and he's going to be a huge aspect of that run defense, and he's going to be a huge aspect in the secondary to stop Bryce Young, but also to move up to the line of scrimmage, similar to Kyle Hamilton, and also
Yep.
get in on that run defense and help with that. But not only that, the Rams are also getting back Devontae Adams, who is also out. He re-aggravated his hamstring injury. He was out for 5 games. Um, he talked about the mental anguish of having to sit on the sideline while the Rams, his team, was playing in the latter half of the season.
Hmm.
But um, you know, he is a big component of this Rams offense. 14 touchdowns. He led the league. He didn't have the highest yardage, especially obviously because he missed those 5 games. But his 14 receiving touchdowns still stood as the most, even with all those games that he missed, because
Yeah.
he's now become a really huge red zone target for Matthew Stafford. And with Adams on the field, he opens up the playbook even more for, like I said, those over the middle passes to the tight ends, or to even get Puka Nakua involved in the deep ball game.
Hmm. You need those leader players back, and like you said, getting those back right now in the playoffs is kind of the best time to be having them back. I think Devontae Adams is probably going to come back like wanting to prove, wanting to show off, wanting to, if this is the last game that he's going to play this season, then he's going to want to put on a show. So I think that it's not good news for the Panthers to see him coming back after a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a break, and he might just be getting hot at the right time.
No, definitely. And he had brought up that if the Cardinals game happened to be a playoff game, like he would have played in that game too. They did show him before in pre-workout or pre-game workouts, and he looked great. He was cutting
Mhm.
and he was running up and down the field. He looked fantastic, but he was like, I just wanted to give myself an extra week, which is smart. When
Yeah, it's
hamstring
good to
in,
know your limits, good to know your body, good to know when is the right time to go and not put your body on the line when there's a playoff game right around the corner.
No, exactly, and especially with hamstring injuries, as we saw, like he injured his hamstring. He was brought back a couple weeks after that, and then he re-aggravated it and missed 5 games. So
Yeah,
obviously, his hamstring was not in the place it was supposed to be. And then hamstring injuries can lead to Achilles and can lead to worse things in the leg. So you definitely don't want to come back too soon, too early. And he's too much of a veteran presence, too much of a dangerous weapon for Stafford and that offense to be out for the entirety of the playoffs. So
yeah.
yeah, this is going to be. I think it's going to be a very exciting game. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think you're right. I think people are not giving the Panthers enough credit in the sense of like, oh, okay, well they were just they lucked out and they got in. I think any one of those teams, whoever would have got in between the Falcons, the Buccaneers, and the Panthers, would have been dangerous in their own
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, I love there's nothing I love more than watching a team come back from like just being the kind of like the joke of the NFL and coming back the next season. Kind of like the Bears have done this season as well. Like I love it. I love watching those teams kind of rise up through and people are like, oh, what's going on over there? And then suddenly you're playing them like now they're gonna get to play as the only game in this time slot tonight. And I don't know, I'm excited for people to see what they've been cooking up. But hopefully they keep, or at least like the best thing that you can hope for from a playoff game is really that there's just two teams playing really good football. And sometimes, like the Super Bowl a couple years ago, Eagles, Chiefs, it was just kind of fun and cathartic to watch the Chiefs get beat up for a few hours. That's not how I feel tonight. I want to see a really good game
Yeah.
where, two really good teams going off against one another.
Yeah, honestly, I was happy because I didn't have to like sit there and watch the entire game. I was like, cool, I can get up and grab a snack. I can get up and grab a drink. I don't have to watch it because the Chiefs are just getting
Yeah.
beaten up. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
well, and it was that because it's like, okay, like the Chiefs have dominated for the previous 2 seasons, and they've always been in the playoffs and Super Bowl
Yeah.
appearances. So it's like, okay, it was cool to see them not, to get a taste of their own medicine, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but
that's
you're
not
right.
what we want to see tonight. We want to
No.
see good football. We want to see
Yeah.
two defenses going up against each other because, like you kind of mentioned before, we were talking about their defensive coordinator is up for some head coaching jobs.
Yes.
So, Rams defense got want to show off tonight for their defensive coordinator, or maybe not. Maybe they want to keep Shula around a little
Right.
bit longer
Right.
and
Right.
kind of mess up a little bit. No, I'm sure they won't.
Yeah, Chris Shula, who is the grandson of Don Shula, the winningest coach in NFL history, former Dolphins legend. Let's go. But Chris Shula has been on everyone's radar for quite a
hmm
while now, and even more so this season. Oddly enough, he's finally gotten his first head coach interview with the Tennessee Titans coming up. I thought he was going to be one of the people that got like crazy interview requests, but
Yeah, so how
uh,
many has he? I think it's just
just one,
Titans right now.
just the Titans
Yeah.
right now. But
People are
uh,
sleeping on him.
I think it's because, like we discussed before on our other pod, it's because everyone's taking their time. Nobody's
hmm
nobody's jumping the gun to hire a head coach right now because there's so
Nope.
many good candidates, and I
There are
think that's
options.
yeah, there's so many options, so many options. But this is a little bit more breaking news, if you will, from Adam Schefter about an hour ago. He did say Rams assistant coaches will be in demand in this hiring cycle. Head coach interview slips are expected for defensive coordinator Chris Shula, which we just said the Titans already requested him, but
Yep.
offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur and pass game
hmm
specialist Nate Haas. I don't know how to say his last name. Anyway, they're all expected to get bigger interviews, head coach and coordinator position
Yep.
interviews. So expect all those to be rolling out the following week. Obviously, Chris Shula did also talk to the media and said that he's not even concerned about head coach interviews. Obviously, he's concerned about the Panthers, which is what you're supposed to say. But he's right. I mean, they can't even interview him until he's done anyway. So if the Titans are really, hoping to bring in Shula or hoping to bring in whoever, Mike LaFleur as well, for whoever else is going to be targeting him, they have to be
Mhm.
a little bit more patient. If those are one of their top candidates, once the playoffs are done with, then they can start interviewing for these jobs. And we don't know how far the Rams are going to go in this playoff.
Hopefully far.
I think far, honestly, even regardless of their end of season challenges, I still feel personally, I think the Rams are still the team to beat in the NFC. But I say that knowing how dangerous the Seahawks have also been
I was
too.
gonna say I'm a Seahawks. I've been like watching them this year. I think I still believe in the old defense wins championships mantra that people kind of like turn their nose up nowadays and say, it's all about the offense. But I don't think so. If a team can't score, then they can't win. And a good defense gets it done. But Shula's defense, great. I think is allowed 10th fewest points per game,
Yeah.
17th in yards allowed per game. Um,
I
you
mean,
know,
yeah, they got
that's
Braden
that.
Fisk, they got Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Nate Landman, they got Jared Verse, they got Cam Curl, they finally got Quentin Lake back, Darius Williams. Like this Rams defense is also stacked. And again,
Mhm.
you I would say that the downfall, which I previously mentioned, is them starting too slow on the offense. Matthew Stafford doesn't get his motor running until the third or fourth quarter, or third quarter rather. But that's something they need to make sure that doesn't happen. But I think with Devontae Adams coming back, they do have way bigger boost. On that front, get that run game going with Williams and Corum. You got Devontae Adams up there, hogging all the cornerbacks, and then Puka's open, or you got Kobe Parkinson over the middle. They just can't start slow, but I think this defense is going to be the deciding factor for the Rams.
But also, if you saw the Niners Seahawks game a few weeks ago, you did see the benefit of sometimes you just can't get anything done against the defense, and that's enough. So that with all of those star defensive players kind of getting healthy, coming back for the Rams, that should also give them a benefit to kind of, if they do start slow, then they can still compete towards the end of the game as long as Bryce Young's not putting up massive points.
Yeah, definitely. I forgot what game it was for the Seahawks where Darnold threw 4 interceptions. Was it against the Rams? Let me see.
I don't remember.
He threw 2 interceptions against the Rams, and they still won that game. But he did throw a ridiculous. Let me see. I'm trying to remember, but the point being, he was not at his best, but they still won that game
Yep,
because the defense was
that
there to,
defense.
yeah, and that's true. That's another thing that people always talk about with Sam Darnold, like, oh, he's not really good. I'm like, yes, he is. It's just, he does throw interceptions. He's like any other quarterback. They have good games, they have bad games, and
Yeah.
um,
And where are the Vikings this season?
yeah, yeah.
Not in the playoffs.
Yeah. But I mean, that's definitely something that can't happen with the Rams in this game. Stafford cannot turn the ball over. There
Nope.
cannot be any costly fumbles from the rushing duo. Everyone's got to be on their A game. Like we said, it's going to be a tough game. It's not going to be they're going to blow them out 45-13. It's not going to be that. I don't think
And then
so.
we come back next week and it's
Yeah,
exactly
I mean,
that.
look,
No, I don't
I'll
think
admit I
so.
was wrong if that's
Yeah, yeah, but I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be like that.
No, definitely not. I think it's going to be a really tough game. I think it's going to be a good game.
Mhm.
I think both sides are gonna play very well.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how we go down. From now, when we're recording, it's about 5 hours out.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see very, very soon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this has been Roundtable Rams episode 1. We will be back next week, obviously, with the result of whatever happens tonight for the game. Thank you so much, Billy, for joining me on this pod. Again, we will be back next week with a brand new episode. If the Rams are not in the playoffs any longer, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they are
Those
not, then
Panthers are coming for you.
yeah, I don't know. Like any given Sunday,
You
he
don't
said,
know.
we all know
Any
this. We all know
given
this. So
Saturday. Any given
any given Saturday, any given
Saturday.
playoff game is what we'll say. So
Yeah.
if they're not in, then obviously we can start talking more about Chris Shula and more talking about Mike LaFleur and everybody else on this coaching staff that's sure to get interviews.
Yeah.
And then, we can start transitioning into the 2 first round picks that the Rams have, which is going to be interesting. Number 13 from Atlanta, which Atlanta traded down last draft, and they still have their pick that'll go from 28-ish to 32, depending on how they finish this playoff run. But for now, we will see what happens tonight.